And so I ended up becoming president of that fraternity, and it was my turn to give that talk. And so I go into this freshman dorm room. There's 20 of these guys. They're outnumbering me, right? They're like, well, we don't like you anymore. I'm like, oh. And so I said, I get it, guys. I said, who here thought that this would be easy? No one raised their hands. I was like, who here thought it would be hard? They raised their hands. I was like, this, right now? I was like, this is what hard feels like. You just didn't know what hard felt like. This is what it feels like. Make sense? We just reset reality. This is what hard feels like. You said you expected it to be hard? This is hard. And they all came back. And so right now, you may be at that point in your career, and the hard can be different for different people. It might be stuck at a certain level of income. It might be just getting started. It might be being number 2 and wanting to be number 1. Everyone's hard's different. But this is what it feels like. There's a level of uncertainty of not knowing whether your actions are going to yield the results that you want, but doing them anyways. Not knowing if you're going to get credit from the market or on your check at the end of the month. And whether this is really the thing that you want to do for the rest of your life. Everyone thinks these questions. But the people who win just continue to do the actions, regardless, which is why I say focus on the activities, not on the inside your ears. You can feel terrible and still win. So that's what hard feels like. So this is one of my favorite Chinese proverbs. Everything must be hard before it can be easy. What makes things hard isn't complexity, it's consistency. As boring as it gets, sometimes you just have to keep doing it before you get anything back. Hard times are opportunities to give yourself proof that even this couldn't stop you. You're going to lose sleep. You'll doubt whether it'll work. You'll stress to make ends meet. You won't finish your to-do list. You'll wonder if you made the right call, and you'll have no way to know for years. But this is what hard feels like. And this is what you signed up for. And that's what makes it worth it. And that is okay. So in closing, said a little Mr. Miyagi. Everyone here knows what to do to win. Do all those things that you wrote down. Make them positive. Cool. Figure out those ways to lose and do the opposite. You know how to do it. Remember, you take those things, chunk them down. Break it down to so small that anyone could do it, even a child. You know why you should be doing it. You have these opportunities that keep presenting themselves. You keep looking at shiny objects. But we get more for what we put in when we stick with things. Wealth is made during the hard times. The few people left standing get the most of it. You create motivation by changing your environment and who you compare yourself to. So you know why you should be doing it, because you get outsized returns for sticking to things. And you already know how to become the person who can win. How do we do that? By doing. Do. Who means do? It's the easiest thing. Who do I want to become? What does that person do? I'll do that. And you know when you should start, which is, if it's not you're really busy right now in this season, it's the best time to start. If you don't have time, you're spending it on the wrong stuff. And if you think you need to get in order to do, you have it backwards. So when do you start? The moment you want to be the future version of you. So here's my final reminder. If you take one thing from this presentation, if you do not change, you did not learn. And everyone here has things that they've written down from many of the talks of things that you want to do or want to think about or whatever. I would encourage you to make that a list of things that you will do. And then when you go back to the same condition, your same home, your same house, your same market, your same whatever, you change your behavior. And then that will show that you learned and you took one step to becoming the person that you ultimately want to be.
I don't quit. You know, I may not make it the first time, but I'll come back. I got to call an audible. I gotta fucking get my head back in the game. I gotta figure this shit out. It doesn't mean you leave. It means you study it more. It means you study it more. And whenever I fail at something, people always say, man, how do you handle failure, man? I fail a lot, dude. I fail all the fucking time. They go, how do you handle it? I don't look at failure as failure. I look at failure as your first, second, third, fourth, fifth attempt. I look at them as attempts. I don't look at anything as failure. Because when you're willing to try to do something, not trying is failure. That's not some after school special shit. But when you're able to go out there, there is no failure. It's attempts. Because when you're trying to do something that's bigger than you, whatever you are, whoever you are, if you're paralyzed, you're trying to walk one step and you didn't, You didn't fail, motherfucker. That was your first attempt. If that's your biggest thing, that's how your mindset needs to go into everything. So I don't look at it as failure is a big word like that gets people down and shit. We give so much power to words. I don't. I take the power right away. I didn't fail shit. I failed. I go back to scratch. I use some positive motivation. I have like one day where I'm like fucking defeated. But I started realizing this is part of the process. This is part of the journey. I had to realize this is part of my process versus just saying, like I used to, I'm just not good enough. If I'm not good enough, we always say that shit. I'm just not good enough. And then we try something else. I'm going to fucking make myself good enough. And that became my mentality. I'm gonna make myself good enough. And so I'm misunderstood a lot, but that's all it came down to. I made myself good enough.
I think it's really important when we mess up that we don't identify with that, right? We identify with the person that we want to be, that we know that we can be. We identify with the thing happening, and then we fall off, right? Like in sobriety circles, they talk about like falling off the wagon. I like the idea that the wagon is going and you're either on the wagon or off the wagon, right? And the idea when you fall or you mess up or you make a mistake or you break that promise, like it's still there. Like you can get back on it anytime, right? That's kind of how I think about it. So instead of going, oh, I'm a piece of shit, I'm spiraling, I'm worthless, it's like, no, the thing is continued on. You know, am I going to run and catch up to it? Am I going to start to build those habits again? Or am I going to, write it off because it's not there anymore? Do you know what I mean? I kind of try to think about it that way. It's like, just because I've had a bad week where I was overscheduled or distracted or I was sick or whatever and I wasn't writing, that doesn't mean all is lost. Like, I just have to sit down tomorrow, or better, I have to sit down now and I just have to do a little bit, right? And that's what starts that process again.
I believe in patience. I'm a patient dude. I can watch a piece of grass grow for 20 years because I know that it's just how you get somewhere in life. By being that monk-like mentality and being able to watch something grow very calmly, patiently, and that's all I'm doing right now. So I'm big on being with yourself. I believe all these fucking cameras and phones and shit, it takes you away from the most powerful thing in the world, which is your fucking mind. I'm trying to find more of myself. And the only way I can find more is to silence the world out as much as I can because it's getting busier every day. It's getting faster. And the faster it gets, the more you are missing who the fuck you are. So I trap my own mind a lot and say, look, man, I put my phone away, I put shit away, and I go dark. I go dark a lot, and it's because I have to find out I'm on a journey of life.
The idea of responding to everything in real time, to being on top of everything in real time, not only is this not a recipe for productivity, it's a recipe for misery too. You have to be willing not to know every single thing that's going on, to not be so reachable that anyone can interrupt you in your concentration at any time. Follow Napoleon's advice, sleep with your phone in the other room, leave your phone in the other room when you're going to do something important. Don't be so reachable. The situation is the situation, and what is it going to teach me? How am I going to grow from it? How am I going to be better for it? Does this matter? Like, why? Does this thing matter? Like, is this thing that I'm about to argue with them or force them to do or feel insecure about, does it actually matter, right? And the answer is almost always no, it doesn't matter. It's made up. 5 more minutes is fine, right? In the big scheme of things, I won't care about this. And so I try to ask myself questions that give me perspective, that take me out of whatever my immediate impulse is, or insecurity is, or worry is, or argument is, and I try to get perspective. And I think that's what great questions do, is they give you perspective, different way of seeing things that you can then hopefully act on.
I think visualization is part of the process, even before I know what it is, because I always been very competitive, because I always been very, very focused on what I want. That focus, that idea of winning, competing, what I have to. So always keep me in a sense where the visualization put me in a sense I could win a fight in 10 seconds. I could win a fight in 1 minute. I could have a hard fight and win by points. I couldn't get a lose. I couldn't get a knockout. So I visualize everything. And even though I could get punched in the face and pass and get knocked down, I still visualizing I was able to survive in the guard and handle the storm and able to get smart again and win the fight. So all the process, a hard fight, a easy fight, an impossible fight, and even death is part of a good visualization because you have all the scenarios in your mind. You review all them, you kind of pretty much comfortable with all the scenarios, even death.
Live as if you have died and come back to life. Seneca says that if you go to bed every night saying, my life is over, I've lived my life, I went through it all, then when you wake up in the morning, which hopefully you will do after watching this video, it's extra. Prepare for life's setbacks. Premeditatio malorum, this comes to us from Seneca, it says exile, war, torture, shipwreck. Be ready for them because they're going to happen. And he says the unforeseen blow lands heaviest. And by anticipating things, we take power away from them. So be prepared, be ready, think unpleasant thoughts so you can be pleasantly surprised if they don't happen rather than unpleasantly surprised when they do happen. That's what Seneca says. He said the only unacceptable excuse is I did not think that could happen. Robert Greene once said to me, there's two types of time in life, alive time, dead time. He says, what are you going to choose? You're going to live this moment, you're going to kill time, you're going to waste time, you're going to let that time die. A Stoic always chooses alive time. They focus on what they control. They focus on how they respond. They know that life is short, so they live every moment. They use every moment put before them because they know that the next one cannot be taken for granted. The Stoics want you to stop wasting time. Stop wasting time focusing on things that are outside your control. Stop wasting time putting stuff off. Stop wasting time caring about what other people think. Stop wasting time regretting the past. Stop wasting time thinking you're going to live forever. Memento mori, life is very short. And to waste it doing any of these things, doing these things that you know you shouldn't be doing, is to reject the gift of life that you have in your possession at this very moment. We talked about being tolerant with others, strict with yourself. That means not judging. Seneca says the study of philosophy is about scrubbing off your flaws, not other people's, right? Leave other people to their own mistakes. Don't judge them, especially people you don't know, especially people who are going through things that you don't know about. Seneca is right. Focus on yourself. Be strict with yourself. Don't judge other people. Leave them to their own struggle. Marcus Aurelius didn't like people. I mean, you can't read Meditations and not see this. He opens Meditations with a meditation on how frustrating and obnoxious other people are. And even this idea of the obstacle is the way, that quote is him talking about other people, about how people get in our way, how people present obstacles. But he says that in that obstacle, there's an opportunity to actually practice this philosophy that you say you believe, to be good in spite of other people, to be just in the face of injustice, to be temperate in the face of intemperance that's being rewarded, to be courageous when everyone else is being cowardly and being rewarded for it. So for the Stoics, people are frustrating, people are an obstacle, but like all obstacles, they're also the way. That's a challenge we can rise to meet. We can be better for wrestling with other people's difficulties. So don't resent people. Use them to become better. You got to see the good in people. That's an important line. Yes, the Stoics were pragmatists. Yes, they were realistic. They were even a bit pessimistic. But Marcus Aurelius famously tried to get the most out of people. He tried to see the good in them. He knew, yes, there's a certain amount of bad people out there, but he always tried to find something good in everyone he was dealing with. If you don't do this, you're going to be miserable and unhappy. Yes, the Stoics had high standards. Yes, they worked very hard, but they had this rule: be tolerant with others, strict with yourself. Cato says, I can forgive any error but my own. It's called self-discipline. It's what you ask of yourself, what other people say or do, the mistakes they make, leave it to them. We suffer more in imagination than in reality. What does that mean? I think what Seneca is saying is that most of the things that we're anxious about, that we torture ourselves about, that we dread, that we catastrophize in our head, they never actually end up happening. Sure, bad stuff does happen in life, but our nightmares are usually worse than reality. Don't suffer unnecessarily. Don't borrow suffering from the future. The present should keep you plenty occupied enough. Focus on what's in front of you. Prepare, be adaptable, be ready, but don't suffer more in imagination than you have to in reality. Some things are up to us, some things are not up to us. It's as simple as that. Epictetus says our chief task in life is to discern what is up to us, what's not up to us, and then what? Focus entirely on what's up to you. That's what Stoicism is. Focusing on what's in your control, ignoring the rest. Does that mean you don't care about what's happening in the world? No, of course not. The Stoic doesn't despair that there are collective action problems. They just focus on what you can do about that problem instead of wasting time, energy, etc., bemoaning, wailing, trying impossible solutions. We focus on where we can make a difference. We focus on what we have power over, and that's where we put our time and energy. There's always something you can do, some way to move forward, some little bit of progress that you can make. Zeno says well-being is realized by small steps, but it's no small thing. So start small, focus on the little thing you can do in this situation. We can choose to look at something as an obstacle, or we can choose to look at something as an opportunity. We can see chaos if we look close. We can see order if we look from afar. We can see disadvantage if we look at it one way. We could see advantage if we look the other. We can see obstacle from this perspective, opportunity from the other. We don't control what other people do. We control how we respond. And that's why Epictetus reminds us that when we are offended, we are complicit in the response. It takes two to tango. Yes, they said it, but you decide that it's rude. You decide that it was mean. You decide that you've been harmed. Choose not to feel harmed by a remark, Marcus Aurelius says, and then you won't feel harmed. What it is we need to do, right? We have the information. The problem is doing it. Marcus Aurelius says you could be good today. Instead, you choose tomorrow. We put it off. We say, I'm going to get started on the diet. I'm going to get started on the novel. I'm going to get started cleaning the house. I'm not going to do it today. I'm going to do it tomorrow. If it was about information, no one would be overweight. No one would be unhealthy. Everyone would have six-pack abs. Every project would get completed. We know how to do it. The problem is that we don't do it. We don't take the steps. That's why the Stoics had the discipline of action. At the end of the day, it's all about the action. It's not what you say. It's not what you think. It's what you do. What action are you going to take? What step are you going to take? And really, that's how you finish stuff, step by step. Just take the first step, Marcus Aurelius says. No one can stop you from that. You have to be willing to be bad at stuff, right? To be at the beginner stages, to be embarrassingly figuring it out, to be mediocre, to be in the process of rediscovering or changing or growing. So if you want to improve, the Stoics say you have to be willing to look stupid, to look embarrassed, to be ridiculous, to not be good, because that's how you get from where you are to where you want to go.
Well, it's that time of year again. We start to feel real happy. Why? Because we're not going to work. If you believe in Santa Claus and you celebrate Christmas, you're looking forward to Santa Claus coming down the chimney giving you some presents. It's a real good time of year. So in that good time of year, we start to feel real good about ourselves. So I start to feel great. So we start making promises to ourselves about, hey, I'm gonna lose some weight. I'm gonna do better in school. I'm gonna be better here, be better there. But guess what happens? The real Merry fucking Christmas happens when all of that noise is gone, it's quiet, and it's you against you, and now all those endorphins are gone. And I promise you made about getting up early and getting after it to go lose weight, study harder, guess what? It's a lot fucking harder now. That repetition becomes a lot harder now. So a lot of us can't do things on our own. So find somebody in your life, so when you throw that towel in, they throw that motherfucker back at you and say you're not fucking done yet. Stay true to yourself, stay hard. You have the class about visualization, self-talk, eat an elephant one bite at a time, breathing control. Yeah, roger that. You gotta put yourself in a hellacious situation. It's a lifestyle. How are you gonna react? How are you gonna react? Like all that training goes out the fucking door when you're in the fucking cold water and you're fucking miserable, and it's the first hour of 130 hours of Hell Week, and that first wave goes over your head, and you're the coldest you've been in your life, and your mind goes from hour 1 to hour 130. All that fucking self-talk and shit, dude, you ain't thinking about that. You think about getting the fuck out of here. But if you live this shit on a daily basis and you know how to calm your mind down, the self-talk will help. All that stuff will help. But usually we react. We have pain, we have suffering, we react, and we react about get the fuck out of here. We gotta go. It's those people who are able to control that fucking feeling of fucking flight and say, nah, motherfucker, there's a way through this. It's not gonna be here forever. I'm not cold right now. I went through 3 of them. I'm not cold now. I'm in a nice warm studio with you. You gotta think about that shit. The shit's gonna end. It's gonna end, but we don't know that. We don't think that. At that time, it's gonna last forever. And then you get to sit back on Friday with everybody walking across the, back on the grinder, all the 16, 17, 18 guys that graduated Hell Week, and you get a chance to watch these guys victorious. And then you get the chance to think about that. You take that hot, warm shower, first thing that comes to your fucking mind is, why the fuck did I quit? So what keeps me going? I've quit several things. I know what's on the back end of fucking quitting. And it's a lifetime of thinking about, why the fuck did I do that? And I ain't fucking doing that no more.
What you're saying is that you have to do those things. You have to suffer. You have to live in it. You have to be comfortable in it. And then maybe some of that shit will help you a little bit along the way.
Period. That's the bottom line of it all. We all want to read about how we can quickly get somewhere. That's why the 6-minute abs and all sort of shit is so powerful. You may get some results from it, but they're not permanent. The permanent result comes from you fucking, I say it all the time, you have to suffer. You have to make that a tattoo on your fucking brain, so when that hard time comes again, you don't forget it. You may forget it for a second, but you can go back in the cookie jar, I call it. It's something that we've all endured. I call it the cookie jar, and we often forget how hard we are, but you gotta reflect back. Take a couple seconds to reflect. I've been through this, I've been through that. And then remind yourself, I'm a bad motherfucker. And then you can get through that shit. But if you don't believe it, you haven't endured shit, you're just blowing smoke, man. And you're not gonna be able to get through anything. I struggled my whole life, but I ran from it. So I started realizing, man, I gotta start facing the struggle, and I gotta be mentally strong for the struggle. So that's why I started coming up with, like, I'm training for life. Mentally, I'm training for life. I'm not training for, like, to lift 400 pounds. And I found out on my own pretty much, is that through discipline, through self-discipline, through repetition, through tons of repetition of the same thing that you don't want to do, and that's the key thing. Through repetition of things you don't want to do, you develop mental, like an armor for your mind. You start to armor your mind, because your mind's like, okay, we suffer every day. It's what we do. We do stuff that sucks every day. So then when the suck stuff comes, you're ready for it. And that's how I started coming up. I just started being very uncomfortable. And now it's like just a way of life. I didn't go deep into the dungeon of my soul to say, okay, what is making you a quitter? What is making you a weak man? What is making you afraid? And so that's why I kept on quitting and going back to start, or not knowing how to get through hard times. And that's why I always tell people, I'm not a theorist. I didn't study, I didn't study a fucking book. I literally put myself in a fire repeatedly, like a sword. You put a sword in a fire repeatedly and repeatedly. If you keep on doing that, you're going to get a nice sword. And then you keep on beating it. You got to beat the shit out of it. And that's what I am. Yeah. I became that. I said, okay, we can't quit. We got to figure out why you are this pussy. Why are you this pussy, man? What is wrong with you? What's going on here? So I kept on putting the sword back in the daggone fire, and I just beat it harder. And I beat it harder. Before I knew it, I started realizing, all right, man, the brain is starting to get hard. The brain is starting to get hard. I'm no longer a theorist. I'm now a practitioner. I put it in hell. I dissected it while it's in hell, because you can't dissect anything in a normal environment. You can't dissect anything in 72-degree weather. You must put it in the fucking freezer and freeze the fuck out of it. And then you dissect it. Dissect it when it's miserable. Dissect the brain when all it's thinking about is, I need to get out of here, man. I want to get out of the fucking freezer. Open the door. And you said, nah, 5 more seconds, man. 5 more seconds in the freezer. And that's when you start to pick that brain apart. And that's what all this stuff did to me. I kept on putting myself back into the freezer or the fire and beating the shit out of myself, mentally and physically. Before I knew it, this is what happened. You want to be quiet in your mind to see where you want to go, because noise is the ultimate kryptonite.
Yeah.
Too much noise in your mind, you're not going to be focused on what the task at hand is.
It's one of the things that I found that like long cardio is the best thing ever for
Ever.
calming that noise.
Yes.
We all talked about that. All the guys that I did that Sober October thing with, the fitness challenge, that like if you work out 5 hours a day, you don't give a fuck.
No.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I get all that shit out. I wring the rag out in the morning time, and whatever you want to do, I'm here, man.
Most people never get there though.
No.
They always have that chatter.
Always.
Always negative anger. The guy who cut you off yesterday at 3
all
o'clock
day
still
long.
in your head.
Yep, all day long, man.
Yeah.
Chatter.
Chatter,
all day
chatter,
long.
chatter. Maybe I should do this. Maybe I should have done that. I should have never let that guy get away with that.
Exactly.
I should have done this. I should have taken that job.
Yep.
But when you just drain that bitch, like nature intended, like give you the potential to run away from predators, avoid invading tribes, and to fight and gather and hunt, and all the physical potential that your body is capable of. When you do drain it with like a 10-mile run or
Right.
long cardio session, long workout session, then you can just be you.
It's the great purge, man.
The purge.
It's the purge. You purge all that fucking demon shit out, man. All the evil. Evil can't stay in a 10-mile run, bro. It's going to get leaked right the fuck out.
It does. It gets pounded out.
Pounded out.
Yeah, but you can see things more clearly. And
Seneca says, we treat the body rigorously so that it will not be disobedient to the mind.
ooh,
I like that.
that's good.
You're-
That's good.
Like when I crank the knob to cold in the shower, or I push myself when I'm running or lifting weights or swimming or whatever, I feel like part of what that is an assertion about who's in charge.
Yes.
I think it's a transferable skill. So like
Yes.
you're doing it in the cold plunge or running or fighting or whatever, and then when you're like when I'm working on a book, and books are hard, you know, and they're like halfway through, I'm like, this isn't coming together. This sucks. Should I stop? I'm like, I know this feeling very well. And I know that you don't listen to this feeling. So like, fuck off.
Yeah.
Right? Like you have to build that familiar, because you're going to go through hard things in life, and you want to have cultivated a sense of like not quitting when things are hard. And so taking care of yourself physically is setting yourself up to thrive emotionally and temperamentally.
There's not some easy lit up street light
That's right.
path with nice smooth roads.
That's right. It's a difficult motherfucker where you're going to fail, and you're going to be in your head. You're going to be saying, I'm not good enough. And it's how you get through that. It's how you get through that on a daily basis when that thing is saying, man, it's the worst thing that can happen to a man is become civilized. You lose that fucking fight. You lose that, why the fuck am I doing this shit? I'm good. You ain't good, man. You ain't never fucking arrived. And that's just my mentality. You may have more, but you never fucking arrived. You want to be uncommon amongst uncommon people. I wanted to be the guy. I don't care if you fucking like me. I don't care if you don't understand me. I didn't give a fuck. Once I went through this fucking journey, this path of life, you ain't got there's a whole bunch of fucking guys that don't fucking like me. I don't give a fuck. I'm a warrior. Period. There's a lot of guys that have been in a lot more combat than me. A warrior is not always that. A warrior is a motherfucker who says, hey, I'm here again today. I'm here again tomorrow. I'm going to be here the next day. I'm 50 years old. I'm still fucking getting after it. It's a person that puts no fucking limit on what's possible. And that's what got me in trouble a lot.
Soon I felt I have to develop some kind of terrifying experiences to make my spiritual mind become comfortable. So big wave surf is always something which terrified me, and I was exposing myself to the ocean to understand the motion of the ocean and be comfortable in this kind of discomfortable situation. Also cold water and other things I always do. And you have to be spiritually strong to accept the unknown comfortably. So my life was preparing myself for something I could not even expect what it is. It's just be ready for anything. And that's required from me, start to bringing scenarios and situations for me to become comfortable in these kind of situations, totally unpredictable. So I like to use nature as a friend of, so the ocean, the rivers, the cold. I like to use the experience of breathing when I was young, with 12 years old. I was practicing with adults at the academy. So they take care of me, they play with me. And one blue belt, strong guy, get me in a headlock, which normally you have defense for it. But because I was kid, I was tired, and the guy was strong, I could not escape, and I tap. And I get so upset with the tapping because I knew was not something I should do, technically speaking. So I went home, I stretched myself on the edge of a carpet and asked my brother Hollis to roll me up in the carpet in 110 degrees humid Rio de Janeiro. And I was stressed, suffocated for a little while because I told him, just let me get out of here in 10 minutes. So the first and second minute was terrifying. I was hot. I could not feel the air. And I started putting my mind on the ocean breeze, flying with seagulls and get breeze on my face and start to be calm. After 10 minutes, my brother unfolded me. I was like a burrito. And then I passed that experience. Somehow I passed through. In the same year, I did 3 more times until the point I was getting rolled on the carpet, feeling nothing, stay waiting the time and leave the carpet. So I was fixing myself emotionally with the ways I could feel like was the options I have, how I can suffocate myself and not die. So I was putting myself in some kind of obstacles just to feel comfortable. And after that, I never felt the panicking I felt fighting anymore.
You don't.
You start putting yourself in situations that suck, you'll find yourself.
Yeah.
You'll find it real quick.
That is the thing, right? And that's one of the things that I've gotten from paying attention to you is that you what you're preaching, what you're talking about is finding yourself through struggle.
That's it. It's the only way to find yourself. You don't find yourself, if you like bench pressing and you bench press all the fucking time, what are you finding out? If you like to swim, that's all you want to do is swim, what are you finding out? Put that, people always, people talk about triple down on your fucking strengths.
Right.
That's the fucking weakest shit in the world. No, triple down on your fucking weaknesses.
Yeah.
Find out something about yourself. You already know the good shit. You already know the happy shit.
Right.
90% of your life will suck. 10% will be fucking happy. You may be a lucky guy and have a lot of fucking money, have a great ass woman, all this shit. Trust me, one-on-one with that fucking guy, he's missing something. His life still sucks because he hasn't faced something that bothered him his whole fucking life. Something is still eating that motherfucker up.
Almost everybody.
Everybody. Eating you the fuck up. But maybe you found a good way, how I did growing up, on how to ignore that voice that's saying, you ain't facing some shit. Period, man. I'm not special. I just stopped listening. And I started finding things that was comfortable. And the more things I found comfortable, the more uncomfortable my mind was. Because that voice I was telling you about, it always was there. I was just trying to avoid that conscience. I wanted to be left alone from that conscience, and it wouldn't leave me alone. Your life and the journey you put yourself through, there's nothing more than that. And that's all I want people to do is realize that you have to struggle. You have to struggle. The bigger the struggle, the bigger the peace. The bigger the suffering, the more peace. Those mornings that you don't want to fucking get up, and I look at it as like a fucking, like a rock, and you find this fucking rock, and that rock is you. And every day you fucking fight not wanting to get up, and you do anyway. You chip another piece off that fucking rock, and every day you fucking eat the right foods, and every day you go to train, you train harder and harder and harder and harder, and you get up earlier, and all these things you do to start forming yourself. You're chipping another fucking piece of that rock off. Before you know it, you have this beautiful fucking piece of artwork that you built. But people don't, and then once you get there, you see it, and it becomes real. Like, oh my God, I fucking did this shit. And so like the fucking journey becomes so real then. But so many people aren't willing to fucking chip away at that stone that is them to start chipping off those fucking rough edges.
That's the fear. The fear is never reaching your potential.
That's it.
That always falling short, always quitting before you're done, always procrastinating, always not doing the right thing. And then one day you're an old man.
Yep.
And you look back and go, God, I could have been great.
Yep.
I could have been great.
I became the most obsessed person on the planet Earth. And I was basically, I had to invent a guy that didn't exist. I had to invent a guy that can take any pain, any suffering, any kind of judgment, be called nigger, be called whatever the fuck in the world, and be able to stand in the fucking room and say, go fuck yourself. I had to build this callous mind, and I built it through suffering. I built it through downright fucking just crushing myself. If it was raining outside at 3 o'clock in the fucking morning, if it was snowing, the first instinct is don't go out there and do shit. My instinct was, we gotta fucking go out there. Anything that was fucking horrible in my life that I would normally say no, that was inhumane to most people, I had to go do it. And I started callousing my mind at this point in my life. People cannot say that to themselves. We have to choose these great fucking magical words that make people feel good. Tell yourself the truth. If someone calls you fucking fat, they may be bullying you, but you might be fucking fat. Someone calls you dumb, it's mean, but you might be fucking dumb. It's life, man. Take it for what it's worth and change it.
Having written is fun. So you're always trying to come up with reasons that you don't have to do it today. But if you're building the muscle either way. You're either building the muscle that says, I do what I say, I keep the commitments that I make, or you're building the muscle that says, I make excuses, I don't do what I say, I can't be counted on, right? And so when we think about discipline, it's really about like, what promises are you going to keep? And the tricky thing is you're keeping promises to yourself that nobody even knows that you made, right? It's not, but you've said to yourself you're going to do this thing, and building that muscle is really important. I mean, I do think one of the critical things about having a physical practice is you are building that muscle of like, I told myself I'm going to do this hard thing. Now that hard thing is approaching, and am I going to come up with an excuse? Am I going to give myself a way out, or I'm going to do it? And then when you do it, now you're in the middle of it, and now you're tired, and there's this voice inside of you that says, well, no one's watching. You can stop anytime you want. Just turn around, just go back or slow down. It'd be easier if you slowed down. And the muscle, or that part of you that is able to override that, is a really critical muscle.
And there's people that are willing to go very far, and then there's people that are willing to go far further than them.
That's it.
And when you're a person who prides yourself on your ability to go very far, and then someone is willing to go far farther than you, you have to decide, do I want to look at that as the new standard? Do I want to judge myself? Do I want to admire him? Or do I want to try to take him down because I feel bad? Because I can't do what he does, or I haven't done what he does, or what he does makes me look bad, because I like to think I'm a hard worker.
Right.
I like to think I'm disciplined and hard. And then I see this fucking dude out there that's just making me look soft.
Right.
And so instead of just going, look at him, man, fuck yeah.
Right.
Instead of a smart person will look at that person as fuel.
Well,
but you have to make your own decisions too, because
right.
what you do requires a dedication that will eliminate a lot of things from your life that some people enjoy and think are important.
Dude, and also,
which triples the amount of air. So when you expert in moving your diaphragmatic breathing, use your diaphragm effectively, you hyperventilate in a way. You may get exhausted physically, but your brain is still sharp enough to get the intelligence, the sharpness, the enlightenment you need to, even when you fading away in muscle speaking, your brain is still cool and functioning. Because normally, when you start to get tired, you start to fading your brain, and you start to making poor decisions, you become a little stupid, and because there's no enough blood for everything. But if you know how to hyperventilate, you become much better in terms of absorbing, fixing your physical, understand your mental, and be able also to use the spiritual.
And when did you...
That life is one big psychological warfare that you play on yourself. You play on yourself, man. The most important conversation I ever had is with myself. And the shit I was telling myself was so fucked up. It was so wrong. It was so misguided. And other people start to write that dialogue for you also. And it starts to be what you say to yourself every single day. And I started creating a whole nother warfare, a whole nother battle started becoming. I was like, oh, hang on a second, Goggins. You have these tools. You have these tools. Your life was basically the perfect grounds for training for where you need to go in your life. All the beatings, all the bullying, all the, you going through learning disabilities, all the struggles. It was the absolute perfect training ground for you to go to where you need to go. And that's how I started looking at my life versus woe is me, poopy pants, kick a rock down the street mentality. It was, God just hooked you right the fuck up. He hooked you right up, man, with the perfect place. You were training for the first 18, 19, 20, you were training for this stuff, man. You had the advantage of everybody else versus, my God, they're so above me. They came from a great family. Mom and dad love them. They didn't they didn't stutter, they didn't struggle. No, man, your struggle is what made you who you are now. So I started flipping this into a whole different, I started being a master of what I was scared of. I was scared of my mind. And I became literally a master of that mind. And that's what now, from now on, it sets me apart from most people. I started diving into that.
Well,
And they mass produce. I can't mass produce something, man.
Right.
And they have these great quotes and shit, but are you living that, motherfucker? What you just quoted and how powerful it may sound, are you getting up every fucking morning? It's not about working out, whatever. Are you really getting the fuck after? Are you just talking to motivate people?
Right.
And I don't want to be that guy.